Good morning, everyone. My name is Ilir Beylieri. I'm a faculty with the University of Florida. I'm the director of the Signal 4 Analytics program. With me today is Dan Brown and Marnie Fowler of the Signal 4 Analytics team.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Dan and Marnie. Dan and Marnie will be available to answer questions, provide comments, and so on. As this is a webinar, the communication with us will be through text. You have no access to the to talk orally, but you can communicate with us via text. So if you move your mouse at the bottom of the screen, you should see the webinar toolbar as showing here, and you should see the Q&A button. That's the button that we recommend you use. You could use chat, the one next to it, for any non-content based question, like technical questions with the audio or anything like that. However, if there's questions about the material and what we're going to cover here, please use the Q&A button, because that will enable us to capture all the questions, and we will compile a list of questions and answers and make it available to everyone after the webinar. You can, if you choose so, you can answer those questions anonymously, it doesn't matter. We will not put names beside questions. We will just put the questions and answers for everybody's benefit. We will respond either in writing during the webinar or verbally at the end if we have time. And of course, for any non-pressing questions, please email me at any time at my email address showing here, ilir@ufl.edu. And then for the folks that may not be hearing us, they may have some technical problems, hopefully they can see this screen, and it would be good to go to the audio setting of the webinar there, and then either correct if you're on the computer speaker. If you're using your computer speakers, then and you're not hearing us, then choose the proper speaker. Otherwise, you can leave the computer audio and join on the telephone in the information that was provided to you when you registered. I also had that information on the screen before we started. We will record this webinar. I'm currently recording it, and we'll make it available for viewing afterwards. After the webinars are finished, which would be by the end of today, tomorrow, since we have 3 more that we are offering, all the participants will receive the PowerPoint slides that we'll be showing here, the list of questions and answers, as well as the link to watch the recorded demonstration, which we'll be covering live today. So as you are aware from the announcement, we are offering 4 sessions. These sessions are a repeat of the sessions that we offered last week. We're offering this twice to make sure that folks can attend given the conflicts with potential schedules and so on. So the first session, which we'll cover today, it's an overview session, and it's focused on basic features. Today we'll talk about data sources, the organization of the Signal 4 Analytics interface, how to search, how to navigate the map, how to look at the data grid or the data table, how to create simple charts, download the data in CSV format, as well as learn how to print the map. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, we will cover the advanced features, and we will see more on filters, more advanced searches. We'll talk about crash types, 2D charts, and collision diagrams, and then how to download the data in GIS format. Tomorrow at 11, we will cover the network analysis, which is an existing feature of Signal 4 that helps identify high crash segments and intersection using crash counts, crash severity injury, as well as crash rates. We will learn how to review high crash segments and intersections, how to apply the analysis filters, and then how to download the network ranking of high crash segments or intersections for including it in reports and for other needs that you may have. And last, tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, we will cover citations and reporting. These are both new features of Signal 4 Analytics. Citations, as far as citation, we'll talk about the data sources, the filters, the charts. The interface looks very similar to what you will see today for crashes. We've added some reporting capabilities in a interactive dynamic chart form. So we will look at report some of the functions that we provided for reporting of crashes and citations, chart types, and the various options that are available there to help you create quick reports. These reports are aspatial, that is, they are not associated with maps. Everything else that you're going to see in this webinar will be associated with maps, except for reporting. So again, this is the information that we will be covering today. Before we start, I'd like to do a quick poll to help us understand more about any challenges that you may have with the webinar, the Zoom installation, as well as your current experience with Signal 4 Analytics. That will help us pace the course in the most effective way. So I will basically launch this poll, and then you'll see it on the screen. All you need to do is just vote a yes or no, and you can vote anonymously if you'd like to. I will share the results at the end. Okay, so please go ahead and vote. Looks like most of you did not have technical problems. Please keep voting. We're at about 70%, 77%, 80, 81. Let's give it a few more seconds. I understand some of you may be on the phone only, and obviously that would make not possible to vote, but we're almost there. Okay, I think I'll end now at 84% voted. Hey, just imagine if we voted so many of us for elections, right? So let's end the polling and share the results. So there's what it looks like. So this is great. So most of you didn't have any problems. For you that had any problems, with the Zoom, I would actually like to know. And so if you could shoot me a quick email after this, I would appreciate it. Since we're trying to make this always better. I had a second poll, but it seems like it's, let me see here. Yes, I do. And let's do a real quick poll here on experience with Signal 4 Analytics. So all you need to do is just choose one of those three options. We would like to see if we have new folks that never used Signal 4 before. And that way, then we can pace this course in the most effective way to benefit everybody. Please go ahead, continue to vote. We're at 71%, and we need to reach that 83, I think it was, the other one. Almost at 80%. We'll be done here in just a few seconds. Okay, looks like we're stopped at this 84%. Okay, very good. Let me end the polling and share results. So that's the audience for today. About 30% of the folks have not had a chance to use Signal 4 before, and we've got 60% and 72% have used it in some capacity, and some of you obviously make quite some use of it. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. And then we will move on with the webinar. So before going any further and getting into the details, I think it would be very useful for you to get a general idea about Signal 4, where it comes from and why we're doing this. This Signal 4 Analytics, it's a map-based crash analytical system, is available statewide. It's hosted at the University of Florida Geoplan Center, and it's designed for Florida public agencies and their consultants that have contracts with them. Agencies could be any agency that has a stake in improving traffic safety in the state. Access is free of charge. It can be requested on our website. We usually request someone from each agency to serve as agency user manager. And so far, the agencies that have access to Signal 4 have a user manager. If you are not aware of and you don't know who your user manager is, please email to me, and then I will forward your email to our user support staff that can look into it and then get you more information on who that person is. And in case that if your agency has no access to Signal 4 yet, then we can just make a request to the website and we can provide you access. That's the main website at the bottom here. This is the informational website, and there you can find a link to request an account. This website, it's a little bit out of date, I must admit, and we're working to bring it up to speed. This system is funded by the state through TRCC. TRCC stands for Traffic Records Coordinating Committee. It's a committee put together to manage federal funds provided to most states to improve traffic record system. I would like to take this opportunity and again thank TRCC for the continued support of Signal 4 Analytics as a valuable resource to Florida stakeholders to improve traffic safety. So Signal 4 at this time, it integrates 3 different databases. It integrates crashes, citations, and roadway data. Crashes are available from January 1st, 2006 to present at this time. There's over 6 million crash records. We obtain the data from Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles daily. The second database is Citation. This is more recent. We've started to obtain the data from January 1st, 2018 to present. Data is provided by FCCC daily, and I'd like to take the opportunity also to thank the FCCC for working with us and providing this data to benefit all Florida stakeholders. At present, we have over 700,000 citation records. You can imagine that's just only from January 1st through sort of yesterday, more or less. And you can see just for 3 months, the number of citations is much higher. These are all citations, UTC, Uniform Traffic Citations. That's what this database contains. And usually the ratio of a crash to citations is 1 to 6, 1 to 7. So you can see the numbers. This is a quite large database. The third database is the Roadway data. At the heart of it, there is the Florida Unified Roadway Base Map. That is a commercial product that is purchased by Department of Transportation and made available to Signal 4 and is available to many other public agencies, state, regional, and local in the state of Florida. The Florida Unified Base Map that we use, it's enhanced by the FDOT Safety Office with selected roadway characteristics like a number of lanes, speed limit, functional classification, and a few other. This data is provided to us by DOT, and I'd like to thank DOT for the service to all of us. The data is typically updated annually. The Florida Unified Roadways Base Map contains, just so that you have an idea, 1.8 million links, roughly, links or segments, street segments, and over 600,000 intersections statewide. Just to give you an idea on the use of Signal 4 analytics by users like yourselves, there are about 2,900 users at this time registered with accounts in over 400 agencies and consulting firms. Actually, that number is actually bigger. In fact, it's much bigger than 400. Usually within a quarter, we see about 10,000 unique user logins, about 25,000 queries are issued, and over 100,000 crash reports are either viewed on the screen or downloaded for further review. So in the live demonstration that we're about to start, we'll take a look at the interface, how do we search, how do we navigate the map, how do we look at the tabular information to charts, and then how to export the data, including printing the map. So let's pull up the live system. Here it is. So for you that already been using Signal 4, this should look very familiar. There is no real differences. There are additions which I will cover. Hang on, I'm getting a question here. I'll try to answer this toward the end of the session I'll answer some of these questions when we get a chance to, after covering the material. So basically what you see here are several components. At the center, obviously you've got the map. The map has a base map, cartographic base map of the state of Florida. And then these blue circles represent aggregation of crashes around the center of the circle. The larger the circle, the larger the number of crashes around that location. And inside the circle, you see this label. For example, in this case, 159 indicates there are 159 crashes at that location. On the right here, in gray, we have the query panel, where we're going to spend some time explaining. This is the mechanism to allow us to narrow the data to the data of interest, right? Today, we're going to show how we're querying crashes. And tomorrow in the afternoon, we're going to show how to query citations. At the bottom of the screen, there is the data table, or as we refer it, the data grid. The data grid contains detailed information for each crash that shows up in the map, or that is, more accurate to say is that is returned based on the default query that I ran here before I just started. So the default query that I ran is I was looking for crashes from April 7 through April 9 through yesterday that were made available. Sometimes these crashes are reported right away, like within a day, sometime within 10 days, and then a small percentage between 10 and 30 days, and some after 30 days. We will talk more about the timeliness of crash reporting tomorrow. We have a specific report for that, and you can look at that for yourself. So the geographic extent is the entire state of Florida. If you look at the bottom of the data grid, this query for these 3 days, 7, 8, and 9, have produced about 1,031 records. 939 of these records are mapped. That means in the map here, there are some that are missing. The reason that they're missing is because, as you know, the information on the crash report is entered in a text form, it's not map-based. The location is text-based. So we have to take that text and using a geographic information system through a process called geocoding, we try to figure that out and find where it is on the map. We could do that automatically, but unfortunately not all of them are possible to find due to issues with the address. The address may be missing components. There is a variety of issues with it. In fact, we are going to offer this mapping topic. It's really something that is not, it's large enough that we cannot cover it within this webinar. Instead, we've decided we're going to offer a separate webinar just about mapping. So we will be announcing that in the next few weeks. Then the other panel here is the charts and layers panel. So the one that you're looking at right now is layers. We have sort of 3 groups. We have the base map, which is here at the bottom. You could change this, for example, to a grayscale map if you'd like to, or you can take it back to the cartographic map, or you can turn on the aerial photography, right? So you could play around with this and see which one is more suitable for you when you are looking at the data. I'll go back to the cartographic for now. The other portion of the map here, there is some reference data. This contains locations of hospitals, schools, fire departments, police station. These data become visible when you are zoomed in closely. So I can point this out when we get there. And then the last group, and the most important group, obviously, is the events layer, which right now, if you were to log in on Signal 4, you will only see crash. You won't see violation. But we have both crash and violation now. Violations are citations. We chose to call them traffic violations here instead of citation. But it's the same thing. And these can be turned on or off. For example, I can turn the crashes off. This checkbox controls the visibility of this layer on the map. So bring it back on. In addition, there are 3 more tabs on the right, on the left here. One is a bar chart. So if we would look at that, we can see a distribution of crashes. So these are charts for certain crash attributes. So if we wanted to see distribution of these crashes here, these 1,000 or so crashes by time of the day, and then we can see that in the chart. And there's many other attributes of interest here. All you got to do is just choose them and see what they look like. I'll go and pick another one, for example, alcohol related, and we can see that most of these crashes, if you hover over the bar, 1,007 are not alcohol related, and then you have a small amount there, 24, that are alcohol related for these last 3 days. that is reported in last 3 days. There's probably crashes that occurred in these last 3 days that have not been reported yet. There is also a pie chart, and then you can explore that on your own. It's relatively straightforward. Coming back here to the data grid, there is a record for each crash that was returned from the query. So there are 1,031 records in this data grid. Each record contains some basic information that is most frequently used. For example, we start with the dot here. It indicates the injury severity. Dark blue, it's injury. You can hover on it and find out. A light blue is property damage. And then if we had a red, then that would be a fatality. Next to it, there is an icon that shows the crash type. For example, that's a side swipe crash. That's a left turn crash, animal contact crash, rear end, and so on. You can explore those. Next, what you have here is the HSMV report number, which is linkable to individual crash report. We'll come back to that. Then you have the agency report number, the agency, the type of the form, the date, the time of the crash, city and county, information about location. Now we have crash street, intersecting street, distance, if it was at a distance from that intersection. Then there is crash type, pedestrian, bicycle crash type, and then some additional attributes on the number of bicycles, pedestrian vehicles involved, non-motorists, total, non-traffic fatalities, possible injuries number, non-incapacitating injuries. In this particular crash, we have 2 non-incapacitating injuries. And then you've got fatalities, whether alcohol-related, distraction-related, drug-related. If it is one of those, you see a check mark. And then estimated damages. Estimated damages are what the police officer that reported that crash estimated, right? It's not the actual damages that were settled, with insurance and all that. It's only an estimate. Then there's some general information about the weather, the light condition, the roadway surface condition, as well as the type of first harmful event. Right? You can scroll up and down to explore this further. So I'm going to go back here to the filter panel. See this hide unused filters at the bottom? That's the way to basically to reduce this list to only the filters that you've chosen. Or if you've played around with this for a while and you're comfortable with it, you can just keep it under hide unchecked, hide unused filters, and you have access to all the filters. So I will start a basic query here by changing the date. So I'm going to go for 15 days in March. 3/1/2018 through, what's happening with that? 18 through 3/15/2018. Sorry about that. Then there are, if you want to narrow it down further to choose day of the week or time of the day, you could choose so. For now, we'll leave them as default, so I won't focus in any of those specifics. Next is geographic area. This is important. Most of you probably are working within a given county, an MPO, city, or a DOT district, or maybe in some other boundary of interest. So here you could choose your geographic area extent of interest. For example, I will go with a county, when you choose that, under the county here, you have an alphabetic list. Go to the county of interest. I'll pick Alachua County. And you could narrow it down by reporting agency. I will not do that. Essentially, I will be looking at just this for now, and we'll click search. Now, this particular search, and let me turn on this hide unused filter so you can see it's 15 days in Alachua County. Produced 367 filters, 313 of these are mapped. Now, you can look at these in clusters like that, or you can click on the cluster, and as you click, it zooms in closer and declusters to the clusters are more specific. The map navigation is simple. You just scroll the wheel out or scroll the wheel in or away from you, and then you zoom in and out. It's simple to if you use Google Map, obviously. It's very simple to that. It's very similar to that. In addition, on the right corner here, you have this little circle. When you hover over it, you get more detailed options on how to navigate this map. For example, you've got a zoom in button or a zoom out button, and then another button here for a Google Street View. Then you can obviously use the plus and minus. You can pan with these left and right with these buttons. And also you can go to the previous extent. So let me just show, for example, one of them. I'll pick zoom in. You get a little help here at the top when you do that. It tells you drag a box around the area of interest, right? So let's say I'm interested in looking at that area, so it will zoom in specifically into that area. When you have a small number of crashes, you can change the visibility or the symbology of these to just direct points. So if you do that, you get actual individual points for each crash as opposed to them being clustered in, spatially. This could be useful if you were zoomed in very close. You were say, looking at an intersection or a specific street segment and want to access every individual street, individual crash type. This is where these colors that I was pointing out earlier make more sense. So if it's a blue one, we can zoom in closer here and maybe switch the map layers here, the base map to gray. That way you can see a little better where these points are. And then you could click on any of these. Say I'll click to that particular one here. And you get a little tooltip with the basic information about that crash. Right? These are things that are the same. That's what's showing in the data grid at the bottom. If you wanted to say, look, the gray map doesn't go too far in. If you wanted to look at more details on this particular crash report, then you may want to open the individual crash report, that is the police crash report. You do that by clicking this link here. Then when I just clicked on that and I get a PDF that contain that report. So we can see this is a long form reported by the, I think the agency, it's at the bottom. But this is a typical Florida crash form, right? And it's reported by Gainesville PD. At the last page, you've got the intersection diagram that shows what happens. And clearly we have a rear end crash, right? I want to point out a couple things about these reports, and it will probably be questions about them. First of all, these reports are not an official copy. It doesn't mean they're different from the one that the state has. They are identical. But Signal 4, it's a planning tool. It's designed for that purpose to help folks here like yourselves that work in public agencies that are that try to improve traffic safety, or that are consultants working with public agencies to improve safety. So you can have access to these free of charge. But if you wanted for any legal purposes the actual official copy, then I would recommend that you contact Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, the crash section, to obtain that information. The other point is that the crash reports are not for sale in Signal 4 Analytics. So when you log in, if you're a new user, you will have to sign an agreement that you have to accept basically Florida laws that guide the proper use of the crash reports, because these have personal information. Some of you may not be able to see a link, especially if within the last 70 days, because by Florida statute, only DOT, county traffic engineering, or traffic operators and law enforcement can get access to that information. For everybody else, you have to wait until it's 70 days old. And you've noticed this. If you're already a user, you are aware of it. Sometimes you will get the report number, but it will not be clickable. And in fact, if it's within the 70 days, you only get the last 3 or 4 digits of the report number, and it's not clickable. So that just that's not what we control. That's controlled by Florida statutes and enforced by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. Likewise, access to this system, it's managed by the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, as well as the Department of Transportation, if you either work for DOT or you're a consultant with DOT. For everybody else, all the requests we route to the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles for approval before you can get access to the system. So let's look a little bit more on the filters here. I will expand the data set to see what we can do with other filters. For example, if we wanted to see, how many of these crashes include distracted driving, right? We would come here under participants. By the way, let me give you an overview on these filters. So you've got this time, place, and agency panel, which is collapsible. We talked a little bit about that. The second panel is crash filters. The third is violation filters. We will not be covering the violation filters today, but we will cover the basics of crash filters. So on crash filters, you have information on the street network, will be covered this afternoon. You have information on the database. You can focus on specific attributes related to the database, then attributes related to participants, and last, attributes related to crash circumstances. These attributes are additive, so the more of those you choose, if you choose from different attributes, the less crashes you're going to get, so the data set get narrowed. For example, if we wanted to look at behavioral factors, and we wanted to look specifically at distracted driving, which is problematic nowadays, as you all know, then we can hit the search again and see that only 63 of these crashes, and I can switch back, by the way, this is the location. There is this vertical toolbar. It controls what you see and how you see it on the map, so I'll switch back to points. So 63 of these points involve some sort of distracted driving. You can look at individual crash reports if you wanted to know more information. Now, if we wanted to add and say, look at the crash of injury severity, so I would go under circumstances, I have injury severity. Say if I wanted to know how many of these actually involve some sort of injury or fatality, then I would check possible injury, non-incapacitating injury, incapacitating injury, and fatality. And then hit search again. Now this narrowed to 22. So 22 of these, unfortunately, resulted in some sort of injury. Look like they're all serious injuries, right? There's some sort of it, but there is no fatality, right? And then we could narrow further down if you wanted, for example, to see what's the light condition. Then you would go and check, say, I want to see what, if any of those was in the dark, right? So let's pick anything here that give us dark situation. Dark lighted, not lighted, doesn't matter, dark. And hit this again. Now we're resulting to 5 crashes. Right? So if you wanted to see all the filters that you chose, there they are. I just clicked on hide use filters, and then you get access to the detailed filters. Now I could go to time and place and perhaps expand the date range and go a whole year for this. So I'm going to go 3/15 of 2017 to present in Alachua County that have these behavioral factors, crash severity, and light condition, and then hit the search again and see what we get. Now it's going to pull more data, 156 crashes that meets these search criteria. So all those crashes are down here, shown up in this table. And then if you wanted to study these more closely, I mean, we could just go in and somewhere in here, let me switch the base map. Say I will look at this particular crash. We could pull up the crash report and read it more and see what's going on. But perhaps we want to go back to look at the charts again to see what's going on with various attributes. So we should see, for example, what was the weather condition like? Most of them were in a clear, right? What was the direction of travel for most of these? You can see a variety of direction of travels, right? You can see a bit more traveling west, in the west direction. So just pick any of these filters to understand basically what's going on and study these more. By the way, you can save this chart and use it in your reports. You can export the data here in the bottom into a CSV file and do further analysis in Excel. And you can also print the map. So let's start with the map. I'll show you how you can print this map. Right, so we did this little analysis and say I'd like to print a grayscale map. I like grayscale, as you could tell, because it keeps the clutter away. All right, well, got a couple of fatalities here, right? Because I expanded the date range to a whole year. So there you go, a couple of fatalities right there. If you want to zoom at everything, come over to this little circle, hover, and then where you see this globe icon, click on it, and it will put all the points within the map for you, right? So at this point, I'm ready to print this map. I will have to click on the Print Map button. I get this little dialog, and here we can go. Actually, grayscale doesn't look that great at this scale. Let me switch to that, and then go back. That's the cartographic one. All right, so that's much better, right? It gives us a sense of where we are, major roads, and so on. So let's call this Alachua Distracted Drivers. Distracted crashes. That's the title of my map. Then notice as soon as I typed that, it added a title at the top. Then here I can add a little bit of description, right? What I'm looking here, 2017, 2018, and you could be more accurate as far as your date filters, distracted driving, crash injuries, in the dark, and distracted. You could type whatever describes better what you're doing there, right? And then that is sufficient. It will put the text. In fact, if I move over here, you see at the bottom, if you can see this, it will put the text over there. And at this point, I can print. Now, you can print this directly on paper, or you can print it to a PDF, which would be very useful because it allows you to save it and reuse it in your reports or whatever you need to do with it, right? Include it in a poster, include it in a PowerPoint presentation. So in this case, you want to pick an option that will make a PDF out of it. So typically, if you have Windows 10, you should see this Microsoft Print to PDF. If you don't, I suggest you talk to your IT to get that set up. Then click Print. It will put it into a file. So let's give this a name. Right? Whatever name you like to choose for it. Hit Save, and is now printing it into PDF. It should take just a few seconds. Once this is finished, I will go on that file location on my computer and pull it up for you so that you can see the final product of what we just did. So let me bring that location. Here it is on my computer. This is where I saved it. Let's open it up. There we go. That's a nice PDF map with the information that we saw in Signal 4. I took the time to explain this because it has occurred to us from a survey that not many folks were aware of that button and not even know how to use it that way. But this is so fundamental, right? The ability to get the map out of there and be able to use it in other applications. One last thing I'd like to show you for today is how to export this data. So I did all this analysis. Maybe you want to go in Excel spreadsheet and build more advanced charts that we may not have here. I mean, you've got some option, quite some option here. There is also a 2D chart option, which I will cover this afternoon. It's quite interesting. But with what I covered today, there's a few options that you can simply copy and put them in your report, PowerPoint, or other media. So how do we export this data? Well, there are a few options on what you can export, but they all are in one place. So you have to go to this little floppy disk icon to export or download data. You can just click on it, and then you get this dialog. So you have some options here. We see we have 156 records that we need to export, and by default it's giving you the option to export in the comma separated value or CSV file, which you can open with Excel. There are a few other options which we'll see later today in the afternoon session. One thing that you see here, crash report PDF images, you can see is grayed out. I can't even check it, right? Because if you hover over it, as you saw, it's available only for maximum 100 crashes. So if your query produced more than that, then you will not have the option to export, to get a copy of those individual images. In that case, what you need to do is perhaps narrow down your crash filters to produce a smaller subset and then split that query in 2 or 3 so that then you can export those that way. The reason we have limited this to 100 is because, unfortunately, the size of individual police crash reports is large. The state by Florida legislation requirement is obligated to save them in an image format. It's a TIFF image format. Although you can do easily PDFs nowadays, they have to save it in TIFF. And then from TIFF, we basically convert them into a PDF so that we can use them more easily within Signal 4, right? So you can imagine when you take an image format, a TIFF format, which is very heavy, very large, and you simply wrap it as a PDF, it's not going to reduce the size. So anyway, that limitation is due to the size of this report. Hopefully in the future, when the state might change the TIFF to a PDF, which will require legislation change, and at that point, these images would be smaller, report size would be smaller, and we can remove this limitation and probably increase it to a much higher number. Anyway, so at this point, well, I'd like to also export some crash reports. So let me cancel this and let me go back so we just have a handful. So I'm going back to my original query. I believe I only had a few. So let's do this, just the last just 2 weeks of data as opposed to a whole year. So we've got 5 crashes, right? Now we can go ahead and export this. You can see the crash report PDF images is available. So let's click that. And now that I've made all my choices, I'm ready to hit OK. I want you to pay attention when I hit OK because this may go relatively quickly. You'll have 2 options. You can choose to email, to get an email when what's happening after I hit OK. We are going to package the PDF images along with the CSV data file into a zip file. If you've chosen lots of data, then that takes a while to create. You'll be creating our server. You can choose to get an email when that's done. You'll get an automatic email. Trust me, it works. Don't be skeptic. And then you'll get the email and download the data. Or if you have a small amount of data, you can just wait and it will do it real time, which is we'll be doing right now. So when I hit OK, you see where it says at the bottom, well, it went away, but at the bottom was saying, as it was packaging the data, was saying that you could opt to get an email when that data package is complete. It's completed here now because I chose real time, so I can download it. It will save it into my computer, and there it is. This is the file. As you can see, is a zip file. I'm going to unzip it. And there it is, unzipped. Let me close this. So this is the folder that's unzipped. And it has the CSV and the report. Let's look at the CSV. There it is, familiar site, right? A typical Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to highlight, make these fields bold. And more or less what you see here is all the information that was provided in the data grid, but not only that, but a lot more. So if I scroll on the right here, you'll see there's lots of attributes that are additional attributes for each of these crashes. These are typically crash event attributes. At this time, we are not providing detailed information on the drivers or the vehicles. Perhaps that's something that we do in future. But at the moment is we put together here most frequently used attributes that are event attributes, plus add some summaries for vehicles involved, drivers involved, and so on. At the end of this list, there are a few attributes that we have added that are related to mapping, these ones here, are not part of the crash report, are part of the mapping process that we do here at University of Florida every night or every day when the data arrives. We run an automated mapping process that takes those points and tries to map them. Not everything works, but we have some editors that manually map, some that fail, and we also work closely with the Department of Transportation Safety Office to replace those that we have not been able to map, but the DOT has. And we do that rectification at the end of each year when DOT data becomes available. Okay, so let's also see the reports that were downloaded. So let me minimize this. The reports go into a dedicated folder called reports. And again, we exported 5 crashes. There are the 5 reports. So I could just click on one of them to open it. So you can see it's all there. Again, I'd like to take an opportunity to reiterate this watermark here that these are not for commercial use. Use them obviously according to the requirement for planning, more or less, understanding what's going on. And these are not editable. You can't really make changes, but you could print them. So notice that here it tells you where it came from, what your username is, and it contains the date and time it was retrieved. So you are allowed to download these reports on your computer and use them. I know traffic engineers would like to do that when they study specific crash sites, and that's perfectly fine. Although, you know, you could always do that directly on Signal 4 when you study specific locations. There are functions here that may help you do that, but you've got choices. I think more or less this is what I had planned to cover for today, and we are at 12 o'clock. Dan, is there any questions? I see we've got a question there, similar collaboration in other states for their data. Yeah, there is lots of efforts in other states with crash data, but you must know that fortunately, the state of Florida is one of that is the most advanced when it comes to this collaboration between different agencies and making the crash data available to Florida residents. And TRCC, that I mentioned in the beginning, has been working very hard in coordination with DOT, with Highway Safety Motor Vehicles, with FHP and a few other health-related and EMS agencies to make that happen. So we really one of the advanced states. Dan, any other question that I should answer?
No, I don't think so.
Oops. Sorry, my audio was muted, so I didn't hear you if you say anything.
I don't think there's anything that you need to address immediately.
Which one? Say it again.
Nothing.
Okay, there's nothing. Okay. All right, well, very good. For folks that are planning to join us at 1 o'clock for the advanced features, I look forward to that. For everybody else, thank you for participation. And as I mentioned, you'll be seeing a follow-up email from me with the links to the recorded webinar as well as the frequently asked questions and the slides that we presented here. At this point, I'd like to close. Thanks again for attending, and we'll talk to you later.